I don't think anybody was under any delusions heading into 2016. Everybody, I think, was pretty much in agreement that the San Francisco 49ers were not going to be a very good football team. We're probably going to be a bad football team and be one of those teams you were envisioning battling it out all year for draft position, potentially trying to get the number one pick in the 2017 NFL draft. I mean, that's the reality of what the San Francisco 49ers were going to be. And during the first 5 weeks of the 2016 season, that's kind of how things have played out. Now, I know with their hiring of Chip Kelly, a lot of people want to kind of do the cool hip thing and knock Chip Kelly and hate on Chip Kelly. And I've done my fair share of that from his time in the Eagles for sure. But when you look at this team, Chip Kelly came into a not very good situation with a not very good football team. And yes, they're 1-4, but they're not playing terribly under Chip Kelly. I think he's getting the most that he possibly can out of this not very good football team. They've been competitive in pretty much all of their games. They're playing hard for him, which you say shouldn't really be a thing to hang your hat on. But let's face it, in the NFL, you can tell when teams quit and don't care. And they seem to care. They seem to be engaged. Now, granted, it's early on in the season. We'll see what happens as the season goes along. But he's had them in decent situations. They've been in games. They've been competitive in games. And I don't want to sit there and just jump on the knock Chip Kelly bandwagon because I think that's unfair. And at the same token, you had to figure a team heading into a season with Blaine Gabbert as the starting quarterback was not destined for anything other than a top 5 pick. Blaine Gabbert just does not have what it takes to be a good, productive NFL starting quarterback. He's at best a middle of the road, mediocre second tier NFL backup. That's who he is. Now, when a team doesn't do well, it's always easy to blame the head coach. It's always easy to blame the quarterback because they're the two kind of glamour positions for the team. And that's where it's easy to shift all of your attention and focus. Now, like I said, I think Chip Kelly's done a solid job so far. So I won't put a ton of blame there because, frankly, who else is going to come in and coach this team and get a whole lot more out of them than what they are right now? Because this is their reality. They're a bad football team. Blaine Gabbert goes, you could get better. And yes, you need better. While I don't want to sit there and put all of the blames on Blaine Gabbert, because all of the blame does not go there. It's a team with an average offensive line, really lacking for skill talent on the outside. Their defense is okay, but they're definitely nothing special. So it's a total team failure as to why this team is 1-4 to start off this year. But the quarterback is the leader on the football team. The quarterback is that dude that in potentially can stir the drink. He's the straw that stirs the drink. He's the guy that can put everything else into place. He's the guy that can bring the yin to the yang, or whatever you want to refer to it as. So it's important when you have a quarterback that quarterback be a guy that you feel like the players would walk through walls for. They would walk through burning coals of fire for. That he's the guy that could pick the team up and will them on to victory. And you just don't see that with Blaine Gabbert. And when you look at his production and performance, and at the end of the day, the NFL is a production performance driven league, he's just not been good enough. 58% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns and 6 interceptions through 5 games. That's not going to get it done for anybody. Averaging a touchdown a game, so that's 16 touchdown passes over the course of a season. And through 5 games, more interceptions than touchdowns. And when you look at Blaine Gabbert, even when you get that occasional moment where he makes a good play or he makes a solid play, or the 49ers to sustain a drive or maybe 2, there's too many instances where he locks onto his primary target for way too long, same shit he did back at Missouri, or he's too quick to go to the check down, which he did at Missouri, or on so many occasions, he just underthrows or horribly overthrows his intended target who actually happens to be open. If Blaine Gabbert is even able to hit on some of those throws, imagine how much different the San Francisco's 49ers season can be. You look at the game Thursday night against Arizona, kind of a similar deal. There are multiple times where He either missed the wide open dude because he locked onto his primary read, or he was too quick to check down, or when he did identify the right read, he overthrows the guy by 15 damn yards. You can't win like that. Because in the NFL, it's nice to sustain those drives, but sometimes you need those big plays. And you're not going to get the big play element out of Blaine Gabbert. It's crazy because the guy doesn't have a strong arm, but he always overthrows guys when he throws deep. He still hasn't learned the art of touch and finesse for a guy with a semi-noodle arm to begin with. It's crazy. So now you sit at 1-4. And knowing for all intents and purposes the 49ers are done, and they were never not done even before the season started because, again, they just were not going to be a good football team. But you get to this point in time where you have to entertain the thought of making a change, shaking up something. Because while maybe deep down you know this is what the team's reality is, you can't put that out there and say this is the team's reality. You got to present a front that sits there and says we're trying to win games and we're trying to give our team the best possible chance to succeed. And I don't know if Chip Kelly can run the risk of going to that locker room and standing in front of the players and really truly arguing that Blaine Gabbert gives them so much of a better chance to win football games. Because the proof's in the pudding. He really does it. And the 1-4 record shows that. And the offense's lackluster performance most definitely verifies that. So you get to the point now where they've got to make a change sooner rather than later. Not so much for the thought of not wanting to lose the season, because the season's, in all intents and purposes, already lost anyways. It's about not losing that locker room. It's about finding out if you've got something more and you could be a more respectable team on the football field. Which brings us to Colin Kaepernick. It's kind of disconcerting in a sense when you see how poorly Blaine Gabbert has played to know that ultimately, injury, whatever the case might be, Colin Kaepernick didn't beat out Blaine Gabbert for this San Francisco 49ers starting quarterback job. I mean, that's pretty disconcerting. That's very worrisome because we already acknowledge that for all intents and purposes, Blaine Gabbert sucks. Well, if Blaine Gabbert sucks, then what does that make Colin Kaepernick? And then you see all the things about the protesting. I've said my piece about the protesting part and where I'm with him on some parts, but I don't know if the approach was necessarily the best and that he had the most consistent message. But at the end of the day, it seems like Colin Kaepernick, to a degree you could argue, has put more effort into his protesting than he has into his play and performance as an NFL quarterback, and in practicing and preparation and improvement. And that's frustrating to see because this was a guy that came really close a few years ago to having the world by the nuts. You're a fourth down, fourth quarter completion away from being a Super Bowl championship starting quarterback in the National Football League. And now we sit here, he's backing up Blaine Gabbert. But at this point in time, Chip Kelly can't be choosy. This 49ers organization can't wait any longer. You're 1-4, and your offense is sputtering, and your quarterback play is bad, period. Colin has a bigger arm. He's better as a runner. Even though Blaine Gabbert's not a slouch as an athlete, Kaepernick's just better. He's got a stronger arm. He's got more big play running ability. He just has more big play ability. And right now that's something the San Francisco 49ers offense could really use, is the threat of the big play. Because if anything, it would help open up things for Carlos Hyde on the ground in the running game. And it would give some life to that offense and life to that defense and life to that football team and that organization. But even with that said, you know what you've got in Blaine Gabbert. And maybe you do already know what you've got in Colin Kaepernick. But you know what you've got out of Blaine Gabbert as the starter through 5 games of this year. And you know that's not good enough. And you know something has to be done. You have to do something. You have to. You're not a terrible team, but you're not a good one. You are bad. And your record will reflect that throughout the course of the season. Going with Colin, I don't know at this point in time if they're going to stick with Gabbert just because of the fact of they want to send a message to Colin about the protesting and different things, or they think that Gabbert practices better and that's why he deserves a starting job. But honestly, at this point in time, you got to roll the dice and you got to try something. It can't get much worse. It really can't. The 49ers have to go into their next game with Colin Kaepernick as the starting quarterback. Because if they continue to try and go against the grain and continue to want to trot Blaine Gabbert out there, the season's going to be lost anyways, and you run the risk of losing the locker room. This is a pivotal moment for Chip Kelly in his time in San Francisco. And I'll put it this way. You trot out Colin Kaepernick for a month and a half, and he's just as bad, if not worse, than Blaine Gabbert, then you can go back to Gabbert, because at that point in time, it doesn't fucking matter, but at least you tried. At least you made the change that was necessary, that you needed to give it a shot, to take a chance. Sitting there and rolling with Gabbert isn't going to get you anywhere. It's going to leave more questions than anything. Kaepernick's been sitting there for a while. The time to go to him is now. If you insist down the road you want to go back to Gabbert, you can always go back to Gabbert. He's not going to get better. He's not going to get worse. He is what he is. You got to give Kaepernick a chance to show what he can do in Chip Kelly's system. To show what he can do under Chip Kelly's tutelage as the starting quarterback. Give him a chance. Because at this point in time, it can't get much worse if you're the 49ers offensively, especially in the passing game. You got to shake it up. You got to do something. And this is the easiest, most tangible thing the 49ers and Chip Kelly could do to shake shit up right here, right now. And that is to make Colin Kaepernick their starting quarterback going forward. It's what needs to happen. It's what should happen. It frankly is what has to happen. Because if they don't do it, not only will it be a lost season, but it will be the beginning of the end for Chip Kelly in San Francisco. Now, maybe some 49ers fans and other fans of other teams would like nothing more to see that. And you know what? I can't blame you. But at the end of the day, to sit there and have Chip Kelly already be a failure is not a good thing for the organization, because then they would quickly be turning to yet another head coach, and you're basically trying to start over yet again. Best thing this team could do right now, in my opinion, is you got to roll with Colin Kaepernick. You got to feel the fro. And you got to hope that it shakes shit up. You got to hope that he can bring some big, splashy plays to your offense. You got to hope that he can help. Because, again, Blaine Gabbert's not getting you anywhere. And neither is Colin Kaepernick sitting on the bench. It's time for San Francisco to shake shit up a little bit.